I want to talk to you about some of the things that I really appreciate about Germany and what actually makes me glad to be living here. And I'm doing this because I recently made a video cautioning people who are thinking of moving here, and I thought I should provide a little balance. I mean, it's only fair, right? I can't just give you all reasons to stay away and leave it at that, can I? Well, okay, I can, but I won't. But for context, and mainly for the benefit of those of you who are new to this channel, I was born and grew up in the UK, but have spent most of my adult life in Germany and am now a dual citizen. Yes, I have 2 passports that I need to pay to have renewed every 10 years. Oh, and this is a very subjective list. It is just what I think. You don't have to agree with me. I mean, I want you to agree with me, but I can't force you to. I mean, you do have... Where was I? Well, let's start with Germany itself. Now, on this channel, I do a fair number of travel videos about various places in Germany, so I have done a bit of traveling. And it's a lovely country. Take the cities, for example. I grew up, as I said, in the UK, which has some truly horrible cities. By contrast, I found most German cities to be better organized, better maintained, and much more pleasant to live in than most British cities. The English city of Bristol has about 500,000 people, but the only public transport is buses and a few local trains. Compare that with Hanover, which is roughly the same size and has a proper Stadtbahn and S-Bahn network. And also, Germany seems to take better care of its historic city centres. Not all of them have survived into the modern era, but a lot more than have in Britain. And it's not just the tourist favourites like Rothenburg ob der Tauber. It's so common in Germany that it's easy to forget just how remarkable it is. This is where I grew up, a very historic little town with some historic buildings, 1 or 2 of them dating back to medieval times, but only 1 or 2 of them, and there's a very important road that runs right through the middle of the historic centre. By contrast, my first full year in Germany was spent in this town, and just about every town in that area of Germany looks very similar. Which is to say that in Britain I have seldom stood in the middle of a town and thought to myself, wow, this place hasn't changed since Shakespeare was alive. In Germany, all the time. And since we've gone from cities to small towns, let's just take this a stage further and talk about how much I enjoy the German countryside. There are majestic mountains, rolling hills and wide plains, all with as many hiking and cycling trails as you could possibly wish for. Of course, in this respect, Britain is also beautiful and diverse, so the 2 countries are roughly on a par. Germany has more mountains and forests, but Britain has more beaches, so on balance, they're similarly excellent. A country, though, is more than just its cities and countryside, so that brings me to the people. And here's where it gets interesting, because according to the internet, Germans are cold, unfriendly, and rude. Well, let me tell you right from the start that having married a German and settled in Germany, I could not have wished for better in-laws or better neighbours. Both Britain and Germany have tens of millions of people, and they're all different. Some are the best, some are the worst. That is just normal. It did take me a little while to adjust to a new mindset, that I will concede. There was this one time when a friend gave me a lift somewhere, and before we started, she asked me if I was a nervous passenger. So, being British, I said, no, not at all. And then the moment she put the car in gear, I went, I mean, I assumed that she would recognise the dramatic overacting for what it was, but as it turned out, no, she didn't. I later overheard her telling another friend, in all seriousness, about how petrified I was of being in a car. So I learned the hard way that humour is a cultural phenomenon, and that moving to a new country means getting used to a different way of thinking. Once I got the hang of that, I found most Germans to be welcoming, helpful, generous, and great company. Except the ones who work in local government in Berlin. Apart from them, Germans are awesome. And from there, I'd like to move on to a much more controversial subject, because this is something that I think Germany actually does better than a lot of other countries, even including several European countries, and that is politics. I know, things have gone wrong and they continue to go wrong, but by and large, Germany isn't doing too badly. The rise of right-wing populism is an issue, but in Germany it hasn't reached the levels that we've seen in quite a few other countries, despite some of the many problems that Germany is facing at the moment. But let me illustrate my point with the flooding disaster of 2021, when communities in the Ahr Valley were devastated in a single night. Now, this was due in a large part to the fact that the early warning systems that should have alerted people to the danger and could have saved many lives failed. And this is the responsibility of government, so it was fair to put most of the blame for that on politicians. In some countries, this would have resulted in a round of buck passing followed by empty promises. I'm used to seeing the Prime Minister turning up in expensive new Wellington boots and telling journalists that this government is spending more than any other government on flood prevention, so stop complaining. In Germany, the government took the point and set about rebuilding the early warning system and making sure that it worked. The first time it was tested, it didn't work properly, but they found the problems and fixed them. Okay, I have to interrupt this video because it's possible I may have misremembered something here. The government had actually discovered problems with the warning system the year before the Ahr Valley disaster, but that event did demonstrate just how serious things were and prompted the government to implement a cell broadcast system in addition to all the other systems in use. I hope that clears things up. Now back to the video. And now it's tested every year, and it works. We haven't yet had a major disaster to test this in a real-life scenario, which is something that we can be very thankful for. But there's no reason to suppose that it won't work, and so for now I'm chalking this up as a success story. The next big project is the general overhaul of the rail network. Now, of course, the government should never have let it got into the state that it is now in, but at least an attempt is being made in the form of actual new tracks and signals. The British government's big idea to improve the railways over there is to nationalise them in the hope that everything will just fix itself. I mean, good luck with that, but the last time the British government nationalised the railways, it closed half of them down because the car was the new transport technology of the future. You think Germany is bad at building high-speed rail lines? Do you know how many Britain has? 1. From London to the Channel Tunnel. So yes, it's a great country. It's not perfect, no country is. But these are just some of the reasons why I genuinely like living here. Just in case some of you were still wondering. You weren't wondering, were you? And in case you haven't seen it yet, here is the video of which this is a sequel. Just for, balance.